302 on the total, with some reclassifications, but it is 317 new cases since we last updated you. Of those 317 new cases, 28 are connected and known to be connected to contained outbreaks and complex cases. 289 of those are under investigation by our public health team. I'm very sad to have to report that there have been 2 further Victorians pass away, bringing the total number of deaths as a result of this virus to 29. The 2 gentlemen who passed away were in their 80s. I'm not in a position to be able to provide any further information about those cases, but we of course send our best wishes, our thoughts, our prayers to each of those families. This will be a very, very sad and challenging time for them. There are 109 patients in hospital. 29 of those are receiving intensive care. Yesterday we had 28,607 tests that were undertaken. That brings to a total of 1,225,999, the total number of tests that have been undertaken since January 1. As I always do, because it's critically important, can I thank those nearly 29,000 Victorians who came forward and got tested yesterday. It's a massive and powerful contribution to our fight against the virus. You can't contain this if you don't know where it is, and the most important thing for people to do, apart from of course following the rules, using common sense and good judgment, is to come forward and get tested if you've got even the most moderate, the mildest of symptoms. That really does give us the data, the intelligence, the clear information that our coronavirus detectives can then use to contain further outbreaks and to bring some stability to these numbers. We have 2,128 active cases. Obviously, we are seeing some relative stability to these numbers. We've always made the point that with these stay-at-home restrictions only just a week old, it would take some time to bring that stability to the numbers, and then of course to then starting to see a pattern where they are driven down. One of the key challenges, beyond the fact that this is wildly infectious and you can be infectious and only have very mild symptoms, if symptoms at all, one of the other challenges of course is that the life cycle of this virus means that actions you take today, the impacts of which are not really clear or well known or understood or reflected in data for at least a week, and to be safe, really 2 weeks' time. That's why this is a 6-week stay-at-home lockdown. That's 3 full life cycles of this virus. At the same time though, we are seeing international evidence and indeed some evidence across Victoria and across our nation that people can still have low levels of virus, be not particularly infectious, but test positive many weeks after they had initially tested positive. Symptoms are sometimes aligned with that, sometimes they aren't. That's that point about it being quite a cunning enemy. It's very, very challenging for us to be across every single case and for every single person to do everything they can to limit the likelihood of infecting someone else. That's why it's so important that these rules are followed, and I thank every Victorian who is following the rules. That is the vast majority. We do continue to see a smaller number of people making choices that not only are they wrong, but they're not particularly smart, because Victoria Police are out there, and as we heard yesterday from Deputy Commissioner Nugent, Victoria Police are out there in force. They are doing the work that needs to be done to make sure that people are complying with these rules, to make sure that everyone's playing their part, large and small, in our efforts to defeat this virus, or at least to stabilise, drive down and then contain at low levels the amount of virus across the Victorian community. Now, I know there's been a lot of discussion, a lot written and said about possible stage 4. There are no announcements to be made about that today. That shouldn't be read to mean that there will be announcements made tomorrow. We of course plan for every single contingency, but it's well too early for us to be moving to a whole new stage. This is in the hands of every single Victorian though. If you want to make that less likely, if you want to get out of these sorts of restrictions as fast as possible, then we all have to play our part, not rely on our doctors and nurses as the last line of ultimate defence against this virus, but instead acknowledge that we're the ones that are on the front line. Every individual, every family, every local community, the choices that we all make absolutely determine how many people get this virus, how it spreads, and how long those restrictions will be in place for. That's just the fact of it. We've all got a stake in this. We've all got a role and a role to play and a contribution to make. And if we all do that, then this strategy will be successful, just as it was last time, just as it has been in so many other countries who are dealing with second waves. I mentioned Israel yesterday. There are a long, long list of nations around the world that are dealing with second waves. And the best way to deal with it is to have settings in place that are proportionate to the challenge you face, and then have a very high degree of compliance across the community in recognition of what's lawful, in recognition of what actually works, and in recognition of the fact that no family will be spared the cost of this virus, the pain of this virus, if we don't get it under control. That is the fact of the matter. I again take this opportunity to thank everyone who's coming forward to get tested, to thank the literally thousands and thousands of people who are working day and night to provide the very best response possible to this wildly infectious global pandemic. They are doing a mighty job, and I'm very proud and grateful to all of them. Equally, I'm very proud of and grateful to every Victorian who is doing the right thing. That is the vast majority, but we've just got to stay the course on this. We've got to keep following those rules. They make sense. I know they're challenging. I know they're frustrating. Everyone would prefer this to be a very different set of circumstances, but it's not an ordinary winter. This is not an ordinary week. And if we pretend that it is, if we pretend that it's over because we want it to be over, then all we'll be doing is spreading the virus, seeing more and more people in hospital, and sadly, more and more people that will pass away as a direct result of this virus.